Hey you guys, before we get into today's video, I just want to make you all aware that there is going to be heavy duty spoilers, not just in the game footage, but in the context of the review as well. So be aware, if you have not played Final Fantasy 16 and you want to be away from any and every kind of spoiler, turn back now. Also, big shout out to Square Enix for sending me a review copy of the game. Let's get into today's review. Drawing life into a new era of gaming, Final Fantasy as a whole always strive to do the impossible, grow with an ever-changing audience. Square Enix doesn't hold the player's hand when it comes to the story, and Final Fantasy as a series grew, matured, and developed, as did the audience. What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome back to the reviews. Today, we're going to be diving into my review of Final Fantasy 16. In this action-adventure RPG, Final Fantasy XVI took a turn that no one expected, in that there's a more mature shadow casted over the entirety of the game, from side boobs to an almost fully naked Clive to understanding one's purpose in the grander scheme of things. This mature overcast also embedded in the themes, motifs, word usage, and overall story, where freedom from God and reliance on oneself created free will. This installment of Final Fantasy creates a consistent evolution with its audience in a way that shocks but is still true to what the series represents. Through each character interaction, each bit of the interacting with the world I did, I saw a shift in the way the game presented itself through the process of playing it. This game is a serious piece, a philosophical and psychological one to be taken seriously, with topics in which it discusses things that would potentially send you into an existential crisis. The mechanics of Final Fantasy XVI are easily the best of any Final Fantasy game I have seen. They are unique in how they are presented, and with no typical party system like how you would have in, let's say, Crisis Core, the mechanics put all of the focus on the protagonist with the ability to channel the icons of various characters. In Final Fantasy game, the intensity of how the mechanics were designed matched the intensity of the boss battles and the beauty of the game. Normally, the mechanics feel like a separate entity in some games, but the mechanics in Final Fantasy XVI felt like a cohesive unit with everything else in the game. From channeling Bahamut to Titan to Shiva, each power had a unique prowess to it, making it different from the rest of the powers that you wielded during battle. You could even customize your icons' powers so that you had multiples of different icons in one attack. There's just so many creative ways to go about fighting an enemy. One thing amongst the many that this game does really well is deliver a powerful storyline that is complex in an easy to digest manner for players. The concept of freedom of oneself from the very thing that created you is something that has been philosophized about for eons. The argument of the choice to create yourself away from the existence of God. What does there being a God actually mean for your free will? And what is free will? These are all the questions being asked in their own way in the game. From the start of the game to the very end, I was experiencing this slow burn that took me through a story that evolved with every interaction, every choice that the character made, and every line spoken. It's clear that the story was one of the most, if not the most, thoroughly worked on pieces of the game. Now, it wouldn't be a game review if there weren't some critiques, so during my experience with Final Fantasy XVI, there were moments that I had more questions lingering over my head than I would have liked, but two of them really stood out to me that I felt needed a discussion. Firstly, the side quests within the main story of the game. There are positives and negatives to this. While I think this is a wonderful thing to do and it keeps the world and experience balanced, there were moments I felt that the story suffered a bit and dragged on as a result of these mini quests within the main storyline, if you will. It's a double-edged sword of having a little too much happening all at once and explaining a story while doing so. I will say, the great thing about these mini quests within the main storyline is that the player gets acquainted with the vastness that is the game. Each area is very unique from the next. A lot of the monsters aren't even the same in each area, which is new for Final Fantasy. The side quests embedded into the main storyline offer further context for the next part and other characters that we are to meet. My second critique is throughout the game, the handling of the topic of slavery of the bearers. I didn't get into the side quests yet of the game, so if more is mentioned there, I will happily go back and make an addendum to the review afterwards. From just mainlining the story, I feel the theme of slavery was underutilized throughout the game. While getting rid of all the crystals to end what was a toxic, tyrannical system ruled with an iron fist was an incredible thing, the slavery of the bearers is the side of the story that I wish was more explored. I would have happily preferred that over the side quests within the main storyline. With having finished this game, game at 45 hours, I can say that for starters, Final Fantasy 16 has massive replayability. It allows you to be creative and take your time in a beautiful world that has players' time in mind. You can take your time with the game, and Final Fantasy 16 is an installment that was made for both the hardcore and casual gamer. So no matter what your proficiency level is with gaming, you can most certainly tackle this game. I so immensely enjoyed my time with this game, from the characters to the story to the tears I shed. Final Fantasy XVI greets us with magic, chocobos, and a humble sincerity that warms the soul and feeds the mind. But you guys, that was my review for Final Fantasy 16. I hope you guys enjoyed this. The next review that's going to be coming out is on We Happy Few. More about that in the next video. But if you guys like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell down below. I make videos every day here on YouTube. May you find your worth in the waking world, your hunter. Stay casually nerdy, and I will see you all in the next video. Umbasa.